Welcome. Crossover report here. Three guys, one mic. A special edition today as we have a guest on the show. First time ever, Kendall Smith joining us from Ball State University. We knew we had to
Yes,
get Kendall.
sir.
Kendall's very wise in the basketball, everything basketball. So he was going to be one of our first ever guests we were going to bring on for a Three Guys, One Mic episode. So happy to have Kendall today. And as always, Paul Lamb, Nick Damiani, myself, Neil Doyle. So today, just going to talk a few different topics in both the NBA and college basketball. We'll get into that. So let's just get into it right away. Obviously, last week, more the middle of the week, there were some stories coming out that, obviously Kevin Durant going to be a free agent this summer, going to be the biggest name free agent out there on the market. And there were some interesting stories, that's always been said. Possibly will he go back to his hometown of Washington, to the Wizards. There's been other teams like Miami, Houston, the LA Clippers have been in the mix. But recently, last week, there were stories coming out that there's a possibility that KD could go out to Golden State, which seems almost not fair, like there would be no more parity in the league. Obviously, Durant, an MVP, he's a seven-time All-Star, already a four-time scoring champ, and right in the prime of his career. Let's just jump right into it then. Is there any possibility, or what are the possibilities that you guys see this happening? That
Zero.
Durant possibly going to the Warriors. Kendall, let's start with you. What do you think?
Zero. I was gonna start. It's one basketball on the court at one time. I feel like Steph Curry can't play without the basketball. So can Klay Thompson, but I just feel like the three of them together is too much. It would just be too much, and it would just break the continuity of the team, if that makes any sense. So I don't think it would work or will happen.
Paul?
Yeah, I agree with Kendall. I don't think it's worth it for the Warriors. Obviously, bring Kevin Durant in to any team would help your team. But they're already the best team possibly in NBA history right now. Why would you risk breaking up that team chemistry to bring in Kevin Durant? It's not like they're going to score 150 points per game. I mean, there's only so many shots they can take. I think I would lose a little respect for KD if he went there. Really, if he goes anywhere but staying in OKC or going to Washington, I just think it wouldn't be worth it for either side.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I think that's a huge downgrade, actually, in a way. Because, I mean, they couldn't have Draymond still if they got Kevin Durant right. They'd have to get rid of him, probably Harrison Barnes, a couple of big key players for them, just for KD. And like you said, there's not enough points to go around for everybody. Just because KD averages 25 a game doesn't mean he adds 25 points to the Warriors team. In reality, he's taking some away from Steph. He's taking some away from Klay. And really, he's going to ruin their chemistry. It's one of those situations where it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There's no reason for them to change anything they got going on right now. They couldn't have had a better year. There's no reason to go for a big change like that.
Well, and still a lot of NBA season left, and as we've said, this Warriors team been one of the most dynamic teams, has a chance to possibly break the Bulls' all-time win record this year. And I think you guys kind of touched on it, and something I was going to kind of ask, but you guys already said. I mean, just the dynamic, does it change too much of the dynamic bringing him in? I agree with you guys. I think it does change a lot. I don't know how. I mean, yes, you're going to lose some pieces, I think, with bringing in a Durant, high caliber player, but with how the salary cap is working now, and you see all these higher salaries, teams able to go out and bring in higher market guys. Yes, I think they lose some of their bench, but I don't think they lose a guy like Draymond Green or Thompson. I still think you have those pieces, possibly, just with how the new money is working in the NBA. But I agree. I think it could be dynamically. It could change what this team chemistry, with the team chemistry, and what this team has kind of been building for. I mean, this team right now, as they are, can stay together for possibly 4 to 5 more years and be able to compete in the NBA. Nick, you got something?
Yeah, you guys think they beat the Bulls' record?
No, I said that 2 weeks
tough.
ago, man. It's not happening.
That's
They're going to
tough.
lose
I
a
don't think
couple.
so.
They got to give their guys some rest sometime during the season. I get they don't play the fourth quarter most of the time. But would you, if you're Steve Kerr, would you risk the health of a Klay Thompson or Draymond Green to get a regular season record? I don't
Honestly,
think you would.
yes. I mean,
Why?
injuries happen. Injuries are a part of the game. Like, it could happen tomorrow. Injuries happen. So, I mean, if I would definitely not go out of my way to get the record, but I mean, I'm not gonna stop history from happening just so I can avoid injuries. Injuries can happen at any time, and they're gonna get rest because they're gonna blow out teams for the rest of the year. So I don't think that rest is the issue. It'll be fine. I don't think getting a record will be a problem.
So how about you guys, Nick, Neil?
I honestly think they might. I mean, you've seen them against the top teams; they're killing them.
Yeah.
I mean, OKC was the closest team the other day, and something like that.
Yeah. I think they just keep playing at the level that they're playing at, and as Kendall said, with how much they've been blowing out teams the whole year, you're going to have big enough leads to where in the fourth quarter you'll be able to sit those guys like Steph, Clay, and Draymond and still be winning a lot of the majority of these games. So if they keep playing at the level they are, and I don't see them not being able to for any reason, unless an injury were to take place.
Does anybody
I think it's.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you're good.
Does anybody have a stat on what's the percentage of fourth quarters that Steph has played? Because I don't believe it's
not many.
He's sat out a majority of fourth quarters.
I'm not sure what the exact number is, but he hasn't played in a whole lot of minutes in the fourth quarter. So
right.
I just, with how much they've been putting it on teams, you look at it at halftime, they're already up 25 points.
Right.
There's no reason these guys, a lot of their starters, won't be able to have time to rest come the fourth quarter if they keep blowing teams out like they are, and I think they will. So I think they have a chance to do it if they keep playing at the level they are, but you never know. Paulie doesn't think so.
Honestly, I just don't like Steph Curry that much. I don't like Draymond Green.
Wow.
So I just don't want them to get it.
That was the question.
Wow.
That was the question. But hey, there you go. There's some opinion right there from our own Paulie Lamb. But
well, also, I mean, even though they're playing all these games, their minutes aren't that strenuous though.
No.
They're out there playing. They're out there playing minutes up by 25 points. Like, so I mean, even against OKC, those were very strenuous, impactful minutes. But I mean, when was the last time they really had a game like that?
Yeah.
Not many this year. So I think that's a huge point right there from Kendall, and it's just been their motto all year. They just go out, they're playing their brand of basketball, run and gun, get up and down the floor, jack up as many threes as possible, and with how well they shoot the ball, that's why they've been blowing out teams all year, and it's been fun to watch. Some people don't like it, some people do. I think it's going to be obviously a story come playoff time. And just definitely the second half of the season, can they keep playing at this high level? So it's going to be fun to watch. And obviously that Durant, stories coming out of him possibly being able to go to Golden State were a lot of talk last week, a lot of buzz. So that would be interesting to come and see when Durant is a free agent this summer if he possibly chooses Golden State, which seems kind of unfathomable, but we'll see. Moving on, in other NBA news, yesterday Derek Fisher fired as the New York Knicks head coach. In his second season, the Knicks, it's been a rebuild. He was brought in by Phil Jackson, 23-31 right now in the year. This year only went 17-65 last year as his first season as a head coach. So it's been a rebuilding year. They went 1-9 in their last 10 games, and I think Phil Jackson and the ownership kind of decided they need to go a different way. I don't know if it's really shocking to see this firing middle of the season just with how bad they've been playing. Kurt Rambis going to step in as the interim head coach. Phil Jackson said a few quotes. He said, he probably could have been there more for Fisher as a mentor, which a lot of people thought was going to be the main reason he was brought in as his first head coaching job. Had played for Phil. They thought Phil would be there to kind of guide him, but Phil even came out and said, he probably could have been there a lot more than he was. And then he also said, it's a lot easier to fire a head coach than get rid of 15 players, kind of stating that, this Knicks team is definitely on the rebuild. It could be a slow process, though. So I don't know. Were you guys shocked? I don't want to say shocked because it's really not shocking, but more maybe, are you surprised that Fisher was maybe the guy that they brought in as the Knicks head coach 2 years ago, or were you not surprised by that at all?
I mean, this is just the climate of the NBA. Everybody wants that quick fix, young coach, come in here and make big differences. But when they start losing, they realize, hey, like, maybe this wasn't the move. And I mean, it's very commonplace for people to just get the axe immediately because everybody wants that Golden State fix to where they fire their Mark Jackson and hire a Steve Kerr. So, I mean, even if you look at something with the Phoenix Suns where they fired their coach, like everybody just wants that quick fix, and it's not just the coach. Like the players actually have to play too. You need players.
Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually really hate that they hired Derek Fisher right away. I don't like having a coach that has no prior coaching experience. I like a guy that's been, I think the best coaches in the league are the guys that were the assistants under the really good coaches, and they see how their philosophies worked. Granted, Derek Fisher played under Phil Jackson, who's one of the best coaches of all time for a while, but I just feel like it's a different aspect of the game to see be under a coach. Like you saw, Thibodeau was one of the better coaches in the NBA. He was under Doc Rivers, right, in Boston. Popovich was an assistant for somebody, I'm sure. So I really don't like to just throw a player. He was that a year after retirement, 2 years after retirement, he just gets thrown into Madison Square Garden, which is one of the biggest basketball meccas of all time, with a crap team, really crap team. When I tell you who is their point guard, I've asked this like every week on here. Who is
Jalen Grant. Maybe Aaron Aflalo?
Is it? No, it's the other guy.
Aaron Aflalo's shooting guard.
Somebody on a 10-day contract? I don't know.
Somebody on it's like Tim Hardaway's second.
I'm actually going to play for the Knicks after this.
It's unbelievable there. I honestly, Jeff Teague actually might be traded today. He could be going to the Knicks or the Pacers. I also heard. A little off topic, just a little fun fact. But yeah, Derek Fisher never had a head coaching job. Anyway.
Paul, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts
a lot of what they said. I think it's so hard to go right from playing to the NBA, even with guys like Derek Fisher or Jason Kidd, who are floor generals, you could say. There's so much more in coaching than there is in playing that I think people don't understand. I wasn't really for the Derek Fisher hiring at the beginning of it all. He didn't have a lot of people to work with, but I just think that people saw what Golden State could do with a first-year head coach right away. But you got to understand, Golden State's team was so good even before Steve Kerr came there. You're not gonna bring in a guy like Derek Fisher coming off, with one of the worst rosters in the NBA, and suddenly he's going to turn them into an NBA championship team. You got to get a guy who can build a team. And also, I don't know if you have to be, or you almost shouldn't be a great player to be a great coach. I think, like Nick said, a lot of the great coaches are assistants. Or Thibodeau's a good coach. I don't think he ever played in the league. Popovich is a great coach. He never played in the league. A lot of these guys that aren't players but know the game so well from watching tape, that's something I think the NBA is going to start going back towards.
Well, and I don't think anybody really surprised by the firing. As we said, Kurt Rambis stepping in was an assistant coach, now stepping in as the interim head coach. I think that's the third now head coaching firing we've seen. And we said right before we started, I think George Karl has been on the hot seat out in Sacramento, but still not fired yet. So won't be surprised to see some more coaching firings as the season goes on and probably at the end of the year. But that news in the NBA yesterday. So moving on now to our last topic, as we want to remind you, our special show here today on Three Guys, One Mic, Kendall Smith joining us from Ball State University, a good friend of ours we went to Marian Catholic with. Crossover Report, you can always follow us on Twitter at Crossover Report. So transition now, our last topic, into college basketball. Just a little over a month before the NCAA tournament starts. And, as we've said through a few different episodes here, it's been the year in college basketball of, number one seed not being able to stay at number one. So many upsets in the game. Villanova was the new number one team to start this week, and that's now the sixth number one team we've seen ranked this year in college basketball. So there's been a lot of parity definitely this year. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through, as we said, it's almost March Madness time, about a month away. We'll go through and just kind of maybe name who we all think would be the four number one seeds start the NCAA tournament in about a month. There's a lot of different ways to go here. I believe Joe Lunardi on ESPN has Oklahoma, Maryland, Villanova, and Iowa are his four number one seeds as of right now. As I said, a lot of different ways to go. There's a lot of teams sitting there in the top 10, even top 15 with 3 to 4 losses. So let's go through. Kendall, we can start with you as our guest. Want to maybe just go through and name who your four number ones would be, and maybe just give a quick explanation why.
I definitely think that if Kansas wins out, they're the fourth number one seed, along with Villanova, Maryland, Oklahoma. Michigan State, too. I would definitely say look out for Michigan State, healthy with Valentine back. They did get Valentine back. So I definitely think that a healthy Michigan State could creep in there, too. Iowa, I just don't see it. I'm sorry. I just don't see it. I haven't watched too much Iowa basketball, but from what I have seen, it to me, it just feels like they're one of those teams, just regular season. By the time it gets tournament time, just won't be there.
Nick?
Okay. Yeah, I like Oklahoma, Maryland, North Carolina, and I guess Villanova. You know, I couldn't say you can't really put Oklahoma and Kansas in there because you feel like the one team that loses in the Big 12 isn't going to be considered one seed.
That's a valid
The
point.
same goes for Iowa's not going to be in there if Maryland wins the Big 10 tournament. So that's a big reason. Then I think North Carolina's going to win the ACC, so that'll look really good for them at the end of the year. And I like that Marcus Page. I like point guards in college basketball. That's so important, especially in March. And they got him. Maryland's got Melo Trimble. Oh, Buddy Hield is something else this year. Holy crap. Didn't know a lot about him till this year. He's unbelievable. Best shooter I've ever. Steph Curry. Steph Curry of the college game.
Bold.
Let's say ever's a long
I
time.
almost said ever. I caught myself and remembered what we were talking about earlier.
Ever involves a lot of players. That is a lot of players.
Paulie, who's your top 4?
I got Oklahoma, North Carolina, Maryland, and then Xavier is going to be my 4th seed. I think Xavier, they've been playing good ball all year. I think Chris Mack has been playing really good team ball. They don't have any superstars, which could hurt them in the tournament, but I think they win out. And then North Carolina and Maryland are just going to play good the rest of the year. But then Oklahoma, I want to talk about Buddy Hield. I think the closer we get to the draft, it's going to be kind of like D'Angelo Russell last year. I think we've talked about this before. I think Buddy Hield. I think there's gonna be more conversation than we think about Buddy Hield going over Ben Simmons, just because Can I talk? I think right now, you could put Buddy Hield on an NBA roster and he would score 18 points per game. He's averaging over 50% from 3 and from the field. I mean, Steph Curry is not doing that this year in the NBA. Granted, that's the NBA, not college, but still.
Yeah.
50% from 3 and from the field. He can create his own shots. He's not like Jimmer, where Jimmer was a great shooter, but he couldn't create his own shots. Buddy Hield can create his own shots. He can get to the lane. He's big. He's strong. I'm not saying that he should be the number 1 pick, but I think there's gonna be a lot more. If you're the Sixers, you're the Lakers with the number 1 pick, you have to think about him more than just.
He's more NBA ready than Ben Simmons.
He is more NBA ready than Ben Simmons. I think Ben Simmons
has better potential down the road. Way better.
Maybe, but I think there's also a better chance that Ben Simmons is at his ceiling right now. You know what I mean? I don't know. Debatable. I'm not an NBA scout. I just don't know.
Ben Simmons' jump shot kind of scares me a little bit. But the way he can just control a game and get whatever shot whenever he wants definitely impresses me. The way he methodically goes about playing his game and can do whatever he wants whenever he wants impresses me more than Buddy Hield.
But I think when you watch Ben Simmons games and you watch his highlights from high school, I don't think he's gotten any better this year. But you look at Buddy Hield, he's getting better game by game by game. He's getting better, in the things you can't control, in the leadership, in the scoring. And Ben Simmons is kind of been able to hide at LSU. We talked about that in a previous video. I don't think he's gotten better this year. I think this was just like an off year for him. So I don't know if he's going to be able to come right in and be able to step his game up that much in the NBA.
Well, it should be interesting. Obviously, those two, probably Simmons and Hield, are going to be up in contention for Player of the Year, the Wooden Award. I'd probably going to come down to the two of them. I think it's just different, though, too. You look at Buddy Hield, a senior, has been there. He's developed his game a lot more as opposed to Simmons, who is only a freshman, but with the hype that surrounds him, you expect a guy with that, with that potential to be, living up to all that the praise that he gets. But regardless, those two players obviously going to be fun to watch. And then for my 4, I'm not much different from really anyone else's. I'm going to slide Virginia in, though, as one of the 1 seeds. I think if they're able to finish the ACC out strong, they have a tough schedule to end it in the regular season. Regardless, they still have Duke, Miami, North Carolina, and Louisville, which is not easy to finish this season. But I think if they're able to maybe get through those teams, I think they can make a run in the ACC tournament. So I think they could sneak into a 1, and then I have Villanova, Maryland, and then Oklahoma, I think, will be the number 1 seed, top number 1 seed come NCAA tournament time. So still a lot of basketball left in college. As we said, it's been the year of a lot of parity. No number 1 team can really sit there for more than 4 to 5 weeks as the number 1 spot. But going to be fun. A lot of basketball right in the heart of the season here. Special show here today. We brought on our pal, Kendall Smith, from Ball State University, giving us a lot of key wisdom here with all of his basketball expertise. Kendall, any final thoughts before we end today's show?
back to Golden State when we were talking about how fun they are to watch. It really reminds me of the mid 2000 Suns, the 7 second Suns with D'Antoni. Which was D'Antoni, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm trying to think because I was trying to decide who was funner to watch. I mean, I would definitely say Golden State, but I definitely do think it's a conversation on whose offense, strictly offense, was better.
That might be something we have to talk about here in another video or two. We'll bring Kendall back on. That might have to be a topic of debate.
Mid 2000 Steve Nash or Steph Curry, very similar game.
I like it.
Very similar game.
Don't forget about the good old Steve Nash. Definitely something we'll have to talk about. Nick, Paulie, any final things?
Jimmy Butler's out for a month.
Yeah, Jimmy
are done.
Butler out for the month, so that should be
the
interesting.
depressing franchise in the NBA right now. On the biggest decline.
Hey, D-Rose is back. D-Rose is back, though.
D-Rose sat the other day because of general soreness. Just generally sore. Like 26 years old, sitting for general soreness. Like the Bulls are in first place or something.
Yeah, that's rough. We'll see. We'll see if Chicago's able to bounce it back. Maybe they'll make a move at the trade deadline, but never know. But regardless, that's going to do it for our show here today. Special show. Had Kendall Smith on. It was a fun one here. 3 Guys, 1 Mic crossover report. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Crossover Report. Like us on Facebook. You can subscribe to us here right on YouTube as you watch. And always visit us at thecrossoverreport.com. That's going to do it for us. As always, Nick Damiani, Paul Lamb, our special guest, Kendall Smith from Ball State. I'm Neil Doyle. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time here on 3 Guys, 1 Mic. Have a good day.